It was called Windrush because the ship that people arrived on was called the Windrush.
Which came from the Caribbean to England.
Apparently, it said the first ship, HMS Windrush, it sunk, but then, luckily, everyone but 4 crew members and the captain were rescued. That I don't know why I remember that, but that's one of the main things I remember. And then the one that came over with all the Caribbeans, I think it docked on the 24th of June, 1948, at Tilbury Docks.
The other black people got to come to England and the UK and to see what other black people can do.
Many people went along on the boats to go to different countries. When they were feeling on the boat, there was a ton of people put on one boat, so that it was kind of a bit squished, but also you had a little bit of room.
I think it took 15 days. When the people got to England, it was very cold. People in my family came from the Windrush generation as well. And my grandparents they came both on boats, but my granddad came before my grandma.
Well, the people thought that when they came to the UK, they'd be welcomed with open arms, but it turned out they were bullied because of the colour of their skin, or just that they were from the Caribbean, not just England.
They brought people over, or they came on their own. For instance, my grandparents came separately, and my grandma brought her 2 children and another little girl over and stayed with them the whole time throughout the journey. They were asked to come over here and then they didn't enjoy it, and they were told that England was going to be really nice, and it was just the opposite of what they expected. Somebody had said that when they came over here, they were struggling a lot, so they used their religion to help them through it, and that's when they became a Christian, and God helped them through it.
I like to hear how their story went and what's happened to them in their life.
I liked one of the ones that said how they decorated their homes and made traditional food. When I saw one of the pictures and the homes, there was pineapple wallpaper, there was a beautiful picture of the sea and palm trees, and it sounded nice, and I think it would have been very nice in their house, bright and colourful and jazzy sort of. Quite like the attitude of the Caribbean, it seems.
I think people were settled down and were happy because obviously they had stayed here for a couple more years, and then they've had children over here, or they brought their family up here, and they could have, after a couple of years, they could have maybe gone back, but they had chosen to stay here and make a family here. So I think they were comfortable after a while to settle down and just carry on with life.
They came over to help build their houses from World War II.
They were offered jobs. They were coming for bus drivers and transport services and the NHS to replace the British people who had lost their lives in the war.
Some of the jobs they came for were to rebuild the houses. They came for bus drivers, builders and NHS workers. That came over to the UK to help build up the UK over after the Second World War.
I'm not sure if we can fit, but my family.
If I had to bring something from the Caribbean to UK, I would bring some clothes so I could wear, some books to entertain myself, and some food. So if there was different food in there and I didn't like some, I could just have some same food that I missed.
Maybe my favourite toy Maybe if like they told me it was going to be cold, maybe like a blanket or a coat or something.
Well, I would bring the things that I like to sleep with, some clothes, some food. I think I'd bring lots of water, and maybe lots of books, and probably something to play with, and a pencil and paper.
Football, clothes, food, and a teddy.
I think I'd mainly bring books because I'm a big reader. Like, I can't go a day without reading one book at least.
Probably like photos or something of people like I've left behind so I can remember people.
I'd probably bring pictures of me and my family.
A picture of my family. Bring a picture of my homeland.
I would bring maybe a picture of where I live to, so I could feel quite good and realize that I left to have a better place and a better life. I think people felt very sad, but at the same time they felt a sort of happiness because they thought that the UK would be better and that they would have a good time.
I think they probably missed them and felt sad for leaving them, but I think they did it for the better.
They were nervous and excited. I think they felt nervous because they were gonna leave their families, and some families left people like their dads behind because they didn't have enough money to bring them along.
If I would have to come over to the UK, I would feel excited because I wouldn't know what was there, but I'd also feel scared in the same way because everything would be different. Leaving family behind, I'd be very sad because I would want to see them as well, but I couldn't because I was going away from the people I lived with for so long.
If I was leaving where I come from, that would be like sad, but also I'm gonna meet my sister and it would be like really cool to see a different country.
I'd be terrified because first of all, I'd have to make sure I got to the right place. And then I'd have to make my way to the place by myself, and it's quite nerve-wracking because if it was a new country, I would have no idea of anything looked like, the way the streets were. It would be a complete shock, and then I'd have to find my way around.
I would be really upset about it because I'm close with my family and my friends, so to move away, not to see them and be so far away from them would just be really hard.
I'd probably be seasick, so I don't think it'd be the best thing for me to go on there.
The cities of London are filled with smoke, and the people of London are rude because they keep staring at us.
I would try and find new friends, and because I know that it's hot in the Caribbean, that to try and find a suitable place that's as warm. I'll try and find other people who has went through what the Caribbean has, and make a group, and we can talk about how the difficulties of coming to the UK for the first time.
I think now it would be a lot easier because obviously you can call people, or if you're missing their voice, you can call them to listen to their voice. And there's a lot more methods of how to communicate with people on the other side of the world. And I think it just put more people would be less homesick and miss everything because there's a lot more culture now and diversity in smaller spaces instead of it being so far apart. And you can meet people and you can share the same culture or background, and people will understand you, whereas when people came over, not a lot of people knew people, or they travelled alone, so they had no one there with them. And then for them to not be treated well just made it a lot more worse. Whereas now people are a lot more welcoming and they'll accept you more.